To properly engage with the sculptures, you will need both your hands free. So, if you do not have a very secure pocket, please place your phone in one of the phone pouches located in the corner of the gallery. Feel free to borrow the extra pair of headphones on that hanger, or if that set is taken, you may take a pair of headphones from one of the MP3 devices. If you do so, please put it back afterwards.
I care a lot about my child's friends, and I'm a big part of the friend-making process.
Stand directly in front of the sculpture and face it.
If my kid wants to be friends with someone, he has to tell me first.
Walk to the side of the sculpture that is on your right.
And then I go to the family's house and meet the family and, of course, the child.
Look for 2 pieces of stained wood, meaning that the wood is the reddish brown color. These pieces are similar in size. Each one is about the size of a stick of butter. These pieces are horizontal. You can make sure you have identified the correct pieces by looking at the markings. The piece a little higher up should have 2 carved lines on the right hand side. The other should have 4 arrow-like shapes going upwards in the middle. These pieces are in fact removable. Start by removing the piece with the 2 carved lines. It should slide out easily. To remove the lower piece, you will have to slide it a little to the left and then pull it forward towards you. These pieces are your tools. You are going to hold one tool in each hand and make sure to hold them by the stained wooden rectangle, not the thinner, lighter parts. Practice putting the tools back where they came from and taking them out again a few times until you are comfortable.
Like, for example, if so-and-so had said something that made me upset, she would literally call the parents and demand the child be reprimanded, which would only lead to more bullying at school. Or if I was upset about grades or homework or a teacher, she would call the teacher, demand that they let me redo the test or homework.
The order you take these in and out is important, so make sure when you put them back that the piece with the 4 arrows goes in first and the piece with the carved 2 lines goes in second. As you take them in and out, each time they go in, they should sit pretty securely in their spots. It might take a little shifting around or a few tries until you get the tool to sit securely in its place. If you are confused and need help, please refer to diagram 2.
But from my experience in the past at traditional preschools, those tendencies of being a helicopter parent were about directing every moment of that child's life.
Take your tools out for the last time and, holding them, walk over to the left side of the sculpture.
And over-scheduling. And I just saw so many parents that were in a panic about, are they doing enough, instead of just sitting back and letting those kids be.
Once you have arrived, look for a long, horizontal, rather thick piece of light wood in the upper half of the sculpture. It's pretty raised forward and forms the top of what seems to be a larger rectangular structure.
Yeah, and that feels crazy at like age 3 or 4.
I mean, they're already
enough?
figuring out what college they're going to at age 3, and I would be like, no, let them play.
Now look below that thick light piece into the maze of lines and look for the one hint of black that you see. It should be on a 3-tiered small cube. The arrow in diagram 5 is pointing to the cube. Your job is to free this piece from the sculpture using the tools. You want to make sure that you are not only standing to the left side of the sculpture, but to the left of the entire large sculpture. So, if you are looking straight on, you should be seeing the sculpture from a side view. As you take in this side view of the sculpture, you should be able to look through a tunnel-like shape in the cube with a few nails protruding. It's time to remove the cube.
And I think that when a parent sees their child struggling or failing, they see that as them failing.
The key to freeing the cube is to get the long parts of the tools inside that tunnel-like area of the cube. But be careful not to stick both of the tools into the tunnel at the same time, as they could get stuck. You're welcome to use both tools at the same time, so long as they are not both in the tunnel.
For a helicopter
Absolutely.
parent, and even for any parent. I mean, having kids of my own, I feel like I feel that same need of, I feel myself pulling back. Like, it's okay for them to fail. That's the way they're going to learn. And so
the challenge is tricky. You might be struggling.
That healthy interaction might be, I'm noticing my child struggling. Do you think this is normal?
There might be something different you could do.
Is there something different I should do at home? versus your helicopter parent is, my kid's struggling, what are you doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? Like, how do we fix it right now? I've gotten parents to, even in 4th grade, email to change grades.
You've probably freed the cube by now. If you haven't, try flipping it over or passing it between the tools. But hurry up. Time is ticking.
And a lot of times it's around social things where it's like
15 seconds left.
they need to figure that out. They're mad at their
15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10.
best friend because of whatever happened.
Come on, should be done. Last few attempts here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 3/4, half, 0.25, 1/8, and 0. Time's up. That means stop trying to get the cube out if you couldn't do it. If you did successfully free the cube, place it on the small square protruding from the wall, not part of the larger sculpture, that is, near where you are standing. Now, put back the tools into their proper spots, where you found them. Remember to put the lower piece with 4 arrows in first.
They need to fix that. If you keep fixing it, they'll go off to college not being able to manage basic interactions because mom and dad aren't there to fix that in the moment. So it's in my mind, especially in elementary, you got to start to let them fail.
The tools should sit securely and snugly back in their place. If you're struggling to get them to fit properly, refer to diagram 2.
I do think overall, in the time that I've been teaching,
Walk back over to the left side of the sculpture.
students are more apprehensive about taking exams, and
If you fail to remove the cube, see if you can easily remove it with your hands. Once the cube is in your hands, turn it around until you locate the side with 3 carved lines. These 3 lines are located on the one layer of the cube without a black line. Make sure that side is facing up, and you are going to place the cube back on the square protruding from the wall. As you do so, also ensure that the longest piece of light wood is pointing away from the main sculpture.
needing reassurance for everything.
Now that the cube is properly in place on the square, face the sculpture in the same way that you were when you first removed the cube, getting that side view of the sculpture.
Too compliant, they're almost obsequious about, asking to use a paper clip
Notice how there are 2 pieces of stained wood that completely break the frame of the sculpture.
or touch the pencils on my desk.
These 2 pieces of wood should be pointing towards you.
I definitely see children being more anxious, even in the preschool level.
Grip those 2 pieces of wood, one in each hand, just like the figure depicted in diagram 3, and pull upwards carefully and slowly.
It's almost like they're so used to being micromanaged on everything they do
You should be removing a rectangle with 3 legs from the sculpture.
that I'm not sure what's going to happen when they have to live independently.
You want to rest the piece that you've just removed on the rectangle that is protruding from the wall, as depicted in diagram 4, which is directly above that rectangle.
They're even afraid to build a block tower because it might be the wrong way or it's not going to balance that way. They don't want to go and just freely explore because it's not going to be right.
The edges of the piece you are holding should sit flatly and securely against the rectangle.
I get a lot of times like my pencil's broken and they sit there and look at me and I say, well, what would you like me to do?
Now, using your right hand, pick up the cube and, without reorienting it, remember, 3 carved lines on the top and longest piece of light wood pointing away from the sculpture, try and slide it into place.
But I think when kids are so overscheduled and everybody swoops in to fix problems,
That long piece of light wood should go through the center of the square. Diagram 5 depicts the cube sitting properly in place, and refer to it if you are struggling.
you don't feel like you have control over who you are.
Once the cube is properly in place, put the lid back on, making sure that the 3 legs of that rectangular lid are inside the frame.
And I think that rapidly then starts to impact your feeling that you can manage picking up a pencil or making the choice to put a paper clip or a staple.
You know you could have removed the cube initially with this method, Make sure that everything that you used is properly in place and ready for the next participant. Consult the diagrams if you need. Participants have a tendency to put the tools back incorrectly, so make sure that the tools look like they do in the diagrams, not necessarily how you found them in the first place. If you borrowed a phone pouch, please hang it back on the hanger. If you borrowed the extra set of headphones, please place them back on the same hanger as the phone pouch. If you took them from an MP3 device, please plug them back into the MP3 player.